Hello everyone, welcome to Learning Literature with Purba. In today's video, we are going to discuss Wuthering Heights, the much acclaimed novel written by Emily Bronte. So at first, we are going to look at the important characters of the novel, then we will look at the detailed summary of the novel, then we will look at the themes of Wuthering Heights and we will critically analyze the novel. So if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, then do subscribe to it and hit the bell icon so that you never miss an update. So Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte is a Victorian novel. It was published in 1847. The genre of the novel is Gothic romance. Now Emily Bronte wrote the novel under the pen name or pseudonym of Alice Bell. Wuthering Heights is set in the moorlands of northern England. The story of Wuthering Heights revolves around two generations of the residents of Wuthering Heights and Thrushcross Grange. So these two are the main locations of the novel. These two are beautiful, huge mansions, Wuthering Heights and Thrushcross Grange. And what happens with two generations of the residents of Wuthering Heights and Thrushcross Grange, that forms the story of Wuthering Heights. And at the center of the novel is the passionate love story of Heathcliff and Katherine. Wuthering Heights is considered one of the greatest love stories in fiction. So now we are going to look at the most important characters of Wuthering Heights. So at first we have Heathcliff. He is the hero as well as the villain of Wuthering Heights. Heathcliff is an orphan. Mr. Earnshaw found Heathcliff on the streets of Liverpool and he brought Heathcliff to his house. And later, Heathcliff develops an all-consuming love for Katherine Earnshaw. Next, we have Katherine Earnshaw, the heroine of the novel. She is volatile, very strong-willed and emotional. And she is torn between her all-consuming love for Heathcliff and her husband, Edgar Linton. Next, we have Edgar Linton, who is the husband of Katherine Earnshaw, and he is very polite, kind and delicate. Next, we have Isabella Linton. Isabella is the sister of Edgar Linton. And later she elopes with Heathcliff and marries Heathcliff. Next we have Hindley Earnshaw. Hindley is the older brother of Katherine Earnshaw. Hindley hates Heathcliff, and after his father, Mr. Earnshaw, dies, he mistreats Heathcliff in every possible manner. So this is the first generation of residents living in Wuthering Heights and Thrushcross Grange. Now we have the second generation. So among the second generation, we have young Katherine, the daughter of Katherine and Edgar Linton. She is strong-willed like her mother and also kind like her father. Then we have Linton, the son of Heathcliff and Isabella. He is very feeble and always he is sick. And lastly, we have Hareton. Hareton is the son of Hindley, whom Heathcliff mistreats in order to take revenge with Hindley. And we have two outsiders who are also the narrators of the novel. At first we have Lockwood. So Lockwood has rented Thrushcross Grange from Heathcliff. And he narrates the events of Wuthering Heights till the 4th chapter. And then the next narrator, Nelly Dean, takes over and she tells us the story of Wuthering Heights, that what has happened all these years. So we have these two characters, Lockwood and Nelly Dean, who are the narrators of Wuthering Heights. So now that we know all the important characters of the novel, let's take a look at the detailed summary of Wuthering Heights. In the winter of 1801, a man named Lockwood rents a huge house called Thrushcross Grange in England. Here he meets his wealthy landlord Heathcliff, who lives in the ancient house of Wuthering Heights, only 4 miles away from Thrushcross Grange. One day, when Lockwood visits Wuthering Heights, he comes across the ghost of Katherine, crying out, let me in," from the window. This curious supernatural encounter piques Lockwood's interest, and he wants to know more about Heathcliff and Wuthering Heights. Lockwood requests his housekeeper, Nelly Dean, to tell him the story of Heathcliff. That is when Nelly starts narrating the story of Heathcliff and Wuthering Heights, and Lockwood starts writing about them in his diary. When Nelly was young, she worked as a servant in Wuthering Heights for the owner of the house, Mr. Earnshaw, and his family. Mr. Earnshaw has 2 children, Hindley and Katherine. One day, Mr. Earnshaw goes to Liverpool, and when he returns with an orphan named Heathcliff, who is dark-skinned. At first, the Earnshaw children hates Heathcliff, but slowly, with the passing of days, Katherine and Heathcliff becomes very close friends. Katherine becomes very attached to Heathcliff, and they become inseparable. Heathcliff and Katherine spend all their time with each other, playing on the moors. After Mrs. Earnshaw dies, Mr. Earnshaw becomes very close to Heathcliff, and he starts preferring Heathcliff to his own son Hindley. And this is why Hindley becomes very jealous of Heathcliff. So one day when Hindley misbehaves with Heathcliff, Mr. Earnshaw sends Hindley away to boarding school so that Heathcliff can stay close to him. But after a few years, Mr. Earnshaw also dies, and Hindley now inherits Wuthering Heights. He returns with a wife named Frances and decides to take revenge on Heathcliff because he was always jealous of Heathcliff. Now Heathcliff is forced to work as a labourer in the fields. Hindley treats Heathcliff very cruelly. However, Heathcliff continues his close relationship with Katherine. One day, Katherine and Heathcliff wander to Thrushcross Grange, where Edgar Linton and Isabella Linton live. The Lintons welcome Katherine heartily, but they treat Heathcliff as an outsider. Katherine is bitten by a dog, and therefore she needs to stay at Thrushcross Grange for a few weeks so that she can recover. By the time Katherine returns to Wuthering Heights, she is infatuated with Edgar Linton, and therefore her relationship with Heathcliff becomes complicated. At first, Katherine spends time both with Edgar and Heathcliff, but when she starts spending more time with Edgar, Heathcliff feels very jealous. On the other hand, Frances, that is the wife of Hindley, dies after giving birth to a baby boy, Hareton. During this time, Hindley becomes even more cruel and abusive towards Heathcliff. One night, when Heathcliff overhears Katherine telling Nelly that she can never marry Heathcliff, Heathcliff is heartbroken, and at this point, he leaves Wuthering Heights and he is gone for 3 years. When Heathcliff is gone, Katherine pursues her relationship with Edgar Linton, and in some years she gets married to Edgar. Their happiness is short-lived because they are from 2 different worlds, and moreover, Katherine loves Heathcliff. Their relationship gets more complicated when Heathcliff returns shortly after their marriage. When Heathcliff returns, he wants to take revenge on everyone who have wronged him. Heathcliff is now a wealthy man. So he keeps on lending money to Hindley, who is a very drunk and alcoholic person. He does that so that Hindley's health gets ruined and Hindley falls deep into debt and depression. And that is what happens, and after a few years, Hindley dies. When Hindley dies, Heathcliff inherits Wuthering Heights. He also wants to inherit Thrushcross Grange, and therefore he marries Isabella Linton, the sister of Edgar Linton. But Heathcliff treats Isabella very cruelly. On the other hand, Katherine falls ill, gives birth to a daughter, and she dies. Heathcliff begs the spirit of Katherine to stay with him. He tells her spirit to haunt him, to drive him mad, to take any form, but to never leave him alone. So that is how much Heathcliff loves Katherine, that when she dies, he begs her spirit to stay with him. On the other hand, Isabella Linton gives birth to Heathcliff's son, Linton. 13 years have now passed. Nelly Dean is now the nursemaid of Katherine's daughter, whom we will refer to as young Katherine. Young Katherine is strong-willed and beautiful like her mother, and also kind like her father, Edgar Linton. She grows up in Thrushcross Grange without any knowledge of Wuthering Heights. On the other hand, Isabella dies, and now her son Linton lives with his father, Heathcliff. After 3 years, young Katherine goes to Wuthering Heights to meet Linton. We get to know that she and Linton have started a secret relationship in the form of letters. Linton tells young Katherine to meet him so that she can nurse him back to health because he's always very sick. But soon we get to know that it is actually Heathcliff's plan. Heathcliff has told his son Linton to pursue young Katherine, because if Katherine marries Linton, then Heathcliff will be able to inherit Thrushcross Grange and will be able to complete his revenge on Edgar Linton. So this is all Heathcliff's plan, to make sure that young Katherine marries his son Linton. After young Katherine marries Linton, her father Edgar dies, and after a few years, her husband Linton also dies. So now Heathcliff controls both Wuthering Heights and Thrushcross Grange. Heathcliff forces young Katherine to live in Wuthering Heights as a servant, and he rents Thrushcross Grange to Lockwood. So that is when Nelly's story comes to an end. Lockwood listens to the entire story, and then he decides to leave Thrushcross Grange and return to London. However, after 6 months, Lockwood returns and pays a visit to Nelly. He asks Nelly what happened after he left Thrushcross Grange. Nelly tells Lockwood that Katherine and Hareton were spending a lot of time together in Wuthering Heights. Although young Katherine at first did not like Hareton for his illiteracy, but slowly she started developing deep feelings for Hareton. So Katherine and Hareton fall deeply in love. On the other hand, now that Heathcliff's revenge is complete, he wants nothing more than to get reunited with his soulmate Katherine. So Heathcliff dies and his soul gets united with Katherine's soul. On the other hand, after Heathcliff's death, now young Katherine and Hareton inherits both Wuthering Heights and Thrushcross Grange, and they decide to get married on the New Year's Day. After listening to the entire story, Lockwood goes to the graveyard to look at the graves of Katherine and Heathcliff. the immortal lovers. So that's how the story of Wuthering Heights come to an end. And now we will look at the major themes of the novel. The first theme of the novel is love and hate. The love that Katherine and Heathcliff shares is all-consuming. It is out of the world. It is spiritual. It makes Katherine identify herself as Heathcliff. She says, "I am Heathcliff. Whatever our souls are made of, his and mine are the same." Heathcliff is unable to love anyone and anything apart from Katherine. For him, nothing matters apart from Katherine. Heathcliff's hate parallels to his love for Katherine. When he realizes that he cannot have Katherine, he wants to take revenge on everyone who have wronged him. Slowly, he transforms from a Byronic hero into a Gothic villain. At first, he focuses all his hatred and revenge on Hindley, and then he focuses his hatred and revenge towards Edgar Linton. Because these are the two men due to whom Heathcliff could not spend a life with his love, Katherine. The second theme is class conflict. Wuthering Heights beautifully shows the class differences of the Victorian era. The reason the novel becomes so tragic is because of the class differences between Katherine Earnshaw, who belongs to a middle-class family, and Heathcliff, who is an outcast, who is an orphan. Katherine had to marry Edgar Linton because he is her equal in social standing. She could not marry Heathcliff because of the class differences between them. The third theme is nature. The nature and climate of the moorlands mirrored the inner turmoil of the characters. The people who live in Wuthering Heights are strong, wild, and passionate, whereas the people who live in Thrushcross Grange are civilized, calm, and passive. Heathcliff is the personification of Wuthering Heights. So that's it for today's video, where we discussed in detail Emily Bronte's Wuthering Heights. I hope you found the video helpful. If you found the video helpful, then do like it and share with your friends. I'll be back very soon with a new video on a literary work. Till then, stay tuned to Learning Literature with Purba. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Also stay connected on Facebook and Instagram. Do visit our online academy www.learningliteratureWithPurba.com to discover online courses on English literature and creative writing. Thank you so much for watching.